So every time ASA and LEAP and MPP or CCPR or GLACA or any of us get together, the ACLU, the DPA, our voices become incredibly strong. And then you bring in the grassroots movement, and it just makes us, as we're not there yet, but we're going to be just as strong and have as much influence in legislation as the Cal Chiefs and the California narcotics officers have now. That's coming down the road. And so we have to craft smart regulation. We have to bring stakeholders. I think one of the voices that is missing is that there are, in fact, law enforcement leaders like Tom Allman up in Mendocino County or the sheriff in Humboldt that are very approachable and understand smart regulation protects public safety.
Right.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Smart
And it's
regulation.
what advocates, I mean, on a local level here in Los Angeles, that's what we've been trying to tell the city council
For the
for
last
7
years.
Yeah.
That if you regulate, you will
Yep.
have a much safer city for those regulations. We have to follow
Absolutely.
them. It's clear where law enforcement can intervene and not intervene. It just makes sense, and it's been such a horrible
Cluster.
cluster.
You know what's fun?
here.
What's funny is a lot of times when I talk to people and I say, we're working towards regulation, and I say it like it's an obvious point. They look at me and say, "Oh, so you want regulation?"
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Of course.
Yeah.
like
of
they don't think that
Well,
that's
we're
what
not
advocates
part of
want.
free the weed.
Right.
Let it be sold on every corner of every neighborhood.
Right.
I'm sure we need regulation.
Right.
That's the only way to go. And the people that don't
100%.
agree
Absolutely.
with that, they're not in tune with reality.
Right.
People that say
Right.
no
Well,
regulation.
Right.
There are two things happening with the no regulation crowd. One is some naivete. They think, we're just going to get to do this forever, however we want to do it.
Right.
But there's also a little greed involved. Regulations cost money. AB 2312, for instance, was going to cost us a lot of money.
Yeah.
There was a lot of
us,
taxes.
in that royal sense, because the taxes were going to go up, and then you'd have to pay fees for registration. Plus, in a regulated environment where everything happens out in the open, you've got to pay your payroll tax and your unemployment taxes and your workers' comp insurance. You can't get away sort of doing it on the margins once you get into this environment. And I'll tell you, as someone who served on the board of directors and operated medical marijuana cooperatives and collectives all the way back to 1999, it's expensive to do it right. It costs a lot of
Yes,
money
it
to be
is.
illegal business.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Who testify right up here.
Workman's comp. My husband.
I'm afraid.
You start talking about the business model, and I think that's been part of it. Is people, so to speak, are coming out of the closet, and they've never had to really be. They've been successful business people under the table. And it's almost, and that's the importance of GLACA. That's the importance of a industry standard.
Absolutely.
That's the importance of adopting best practices. That's the importance of having a sound business plan. But I see the industry has made tons.
You up off the floor now?
You okay, Don?
You okay? Did you fall down there, Don? What happened?
No, I'm here.
Too many
having a little fade in and out of
pistachios?
the audio.
Too many pistachios there?
That was a really big pistachio.
You were making a point.
Sorry.
I've seen the industry evolve. I've only been with Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. I started speaking for them during Prop 19. So I have seen the industry evolve tremendously, and it's really it's nice to take a step back and take a look at it. My husband's a very successful business owner, and we've had this discussion about how you see kind of free market capitalism has evolved with what you guys are doing, and the people that are good business people are going to survive and succeed, and the people that shouldn't be in the business, law enforcement will pick them off down the road, or they'll pick up and go someplace else. And so I think that's part of what you guys are fighting is the greed in some aspects within the industry. I call them the hit and run artists that open up a dispensary, in one location. They get shut down. They go open up a dispensary in another location instead of adopting best practices.
Yeah, we're fighting this in Los Angeles and have been for quite a while, and that's we've been talking on many of our shows on Talking Marijuana about Prop D as
And how you
opposed to
should
Prop
vote, yes.
F.
Yeah.
And really what we're talking about are people that have adopted best practices, that have been regulating, paying taxes, paying their
Workman's
employees,
comp.
and their
workman's
employees'
comp,
benefits.
really running their businesses like businesses, as opposed to people that came in afterwards and saw nothing was happening to people as far as enforcement in Los Angeles. They just opened willy-nilly. Some are closing, opening up somewhere else. Those people aren't paying taxes. They're not best practices for neighborhoods and neighbors, and there is no safety around those kinds of dispensaries. And so we hope that on May 21st we'll get our first step towards settling some of this by adopting Prop D. Please, everyone in Los Angeles, go out and vote yes on Prop D on May 21st.
It's the only sensible solution to the problem here in Los Angeles.
Yeah,
Prop
and
D.
and GLACA, thanks for recognizing that, Diane, and for bringing it up, Don. But GLACA, one of the things we've done over the 7 years that we've existed is our accredited clubs and our affiliated clubs, to the degree that we can whip them into shape, do follow best practices. We have guidelines in GLACA that we thought would have been adopted long ago as regulations here in Los Angeles, but as far as how far to be from schools, locations,
Sure.
from sensitive areas, hours of
Operation.
operation, and the way we check people in, there's a rigorous sort of list of ways to operate our businesses to be a GLACA accredited club. And that over the years, we got a lot of pushback in the beginning when we
Sure.
tried to put
Yeah.
those regulations on, because it is an industry that operates in the dark and people don't like their practices to be seen. But it has evolved, it keeps evolving, and we're hoping that that Prop D is really going to push us over the edge and really get everybody kind of on the same page in Los Angeles.
Absolutely. Don, something you had mentioned earlier about the importance of you being up in Sacramento today.
Dan, I'm sorry, you dropped out there. I can't hear you.
Not a problem. Can you hear me now, Don?
No.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, so some of the things that you touched on earlier today when you talked about the importance of you being in Sacramento today is the
Gosh, I'm sorry. I've lost the audio again. We're having some technical glitches here.
Can you hear it?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Justin and I will share mics. So
Excellent. Okay.
So I think one of the things that's hugely important that you touched on is something that we don't talk about enough, is the stigma associated with criminal convictions, whether it's cannabis or drug offenses. And one of the things that happened today is there was a letter that was sent to President Barack Obama, signed by 175 notable musicians and artists and other industry coalition partners. Neil Franklin's signature is on this letter as well. And it really talks about the unintended consequences of the drug war, not just the war on cannabis, which I think is occurring in California differently than it is in other places, but simply that we have to develop other regulatory models and allow a state-by-state process where how we regulate whether it's medical marijuana or legal marijuana or ending prohibition for other drug offenses is different than what we do in New York. And so, the Pew poll came out this last week, which was amazing, because you look at the Republican, the independent response, and the Democratic response that is basically telling the federal government, get out of the way, let the states regulate.
We've got a caller, it looks like. I'm going to see who's on the line, and we'll come back to this discussion.
Move over.
Hi
This is
there.
Jack Myers calling from R&L and Associates. We have received paperwork pertaining to a case in our office as of last week attached to your name and Social Security number. I do
Excuse
have
me,
to
who
go
are you
over all the
calling?
further information.
Well,
That.
they tracked me down. Damn it. And we lost Don on top of it because of that. Well, hopefully Don will call back. Hopefully Don will call back. He
Wow.
realizes he's
I
dropped.
wonder who that was all about.
Yeah.
I'll be
That was
right
a hell of a wrong number. I'll tell you. That was a hell
Aaron's
of a wrong
running
number.
out the door.
Including the former cop. Oh my goodness, did I do something?
They're coming for us just for talking about this. So hopefully Don will call back in. He's not on the line right
Yeah,
now.
you know what's interesting? Let's go through that Pew poll because I know, Barry, you wanted to talk
Yeah,
about that a
was
little bit.
that was a landmark poll that's come through.
Wait, is that Don?
Don, is that you?
That was a landmark poll that comes through.
Don, are you there?
I'm back.
Oh, great. Okay, thanks. Good. Sorry about that. We had a phone.
Hey, I've got you guys back online. You're looking good. Love that new artwork.
We had a phony
Wait,
phone call.
was it you that the bill collectors were after, Don?
Maybe, yeah. Usually is.
So we were starting to talk about that Pew poll and the great news that had come out this week.
Well, I think what's interesting is the public and what we see always is that politicians and law enforcement leaders are really almost kind of a decade behind the public is probably the best way to describe it. And yet things are changing. You know, California, Gavin Newsom finally came out publicly
Absolutely.
and said, time. So we know that adopting a control regulation, adult recreational model for cannabis will protect patient access. But what I found most interesting about this poll was that for medical marijuana, the numbers keep going higher. Here it says it's like 77% of Americans believe in medical marijuana. And even conservatives, Republicans, hardcore, it's at, a huge number. Like 72%.
Wow.
Oh, no, hang on. Republicans, 72% of Republicans
That's
polled.
surprising.
The reality with that is that, cancer and diseases that are devastating to people, hit indiscriminately. They don't care if you're rich or who you are.
Or Republican or
Republican
conservative or Democrat.
So
or-
if you have someone
However-
that's in your family and you're watching them suffer, and a little bit of cannabis is going to give them a relief, of course that's going to convince you. That's just a human thing. That's a humanistic
Absolutely.
thing.
That's,
I'll tell
but
you.
you know what we have to think about in terms of these polls is this. 80% support medical cannabis. In principle, people love it, but not in their neighborhood. And that's where medical cannabis people
Right.
need to be most concerned is what's happening in their community. Because lots of people are like, oh, I'm all for medical cannabis, but don't put one on my block, that sort of thing.
But that's where
Or you can't grow in
regulations
my
and good
house or what
practices
have you.
really do
Yes.
come in. I mean, that
Well, I hope
everything
that the
has to work
legalization-
together.
The legalization movement, which is gaining a lot of steam right now, I really hope that they're watching their flank, because we saw this in 1979, didn't we, where things were really heading in the right direction. They weren't watching the flank, and there's a backlash that comes. It's like, oh, sure, everyone says, sure, legalize pot. I hear that from politicians all the time now. Just legalize it. But when you start thinking about where they're going to be sold, will kids get it, what neighborhood is it in,
Devil's
that's
in the
where landmines
details
are gonna
for
show
sure.
up.
Yeah.
Don, you're right, and Barry, you are right about the devil's in the details, but we have the models. We don't allow liquor stores in most neighborhoods. Okay, and I, in my law enforcement career, when I was a lieutenant, I was in charge of the permitting process, which included overseeing bars and restaurants and liquor licenses and everything else. And so, we're going to have to develop, it's commercial sites. It's appropriate regulations for personal cultivation that are limited. It's age restrictions. No different than alcohol because,
Exactly.
I have a son who graduated from high school a few years ago in a very nice neighborhood in Orange County. And I used to do the experiment with them joking. I never actually said, go out and get me marijuana. But, with all their friends, hey, what can you bring me back? Everybody could bring me back marijuana. Everybody could bring me back methamphetamine or OxyContin. Hardly anyone could bring me back cigarettes or alcohol. And so we know.
Wow.
Yeah. But that's
Because it's
not-
regulated.
but because
It's regulated
regulated,
and
yeah.
you know who's buying
and,
it.
And then there's the issues associated with the black market, which appropriately regulating cannabis will allow us to take the drug profiteers, the black market violence, the gangs, those types of people out, and it will give law enforcement the opportunity to go after, as I call, real criminals. If you have a gang member that's dealing drugs right now, yeah, they may not quit crime entirely, but then if they're going to go out and victimize someone, We need teams that are going to go out and become career criminal surveillance teams that we have, but we've neglected them because of the war on drugs. I mean, our solvability factor is down. Is law enforcement currently only solves 6 of 10 murders, 6 of 10 rapes. We only solve 1 out of 10 property crimes. And a big part of it is because we've diverting our fiscal resources to a war on human nature.
So ridiculous.
Right.
So ridiculous. What a waste of money and time.
Jensen, are we taking a break here?
Well said, Diane. Well said.
Or yeah, let's take a quick break, and we'll come back. And I'd like to get into the organization of LEAP, how it came about, what your involvement is with it, and we'll do that on the other side of the break. Don, we'll talk to you when we get back. And if you want to give a call and get in on the conversation here today, the number is 818-850-7746. That's 818-850-7746. And maybe if you're interested and you're out there listening, we can get you in on the conversation when we come back from the break.
You're listening to the GoCast Network.
Greg Buckstar Sides here for the GoCast Network.
I'm Gary Garver, formerly of the Howard Stern Show, and I love the GoCast Network, Greg. It's awesome.
I love the GoCast Network too, and you know what I love about it is the partnerships we have, like with Ustream.
I dig Ustream.
Me too. What a great place to watch live content, like we do 30 shows a week live.
Yeah, we're kicking ass here at the GoCast Network. And how can people check out our shows on Ustream?
Well, what they can do is they can go to gocastnetwork.com, click on the little live preview, boom, it opens right up. You're watching on GoCast, and bonuses to Ustream because guess what? It's their little thing.
We got some great shows here.
We do.
Check us out.
Check us
GoCast
out.
Network.
GoCast Network.
Before you hit fast forward, listen to this.
It's the big hot rockin', non-stoppin', less talking, boss jockin', head knockin', finger poppin', yanking, crankin', hiney spankin', wham bam, thank you ma'am, 50,000 watt blowtorch of rock and roll! That is the Dick and Darren Show.
Dick and Darren downloaded 185 episodes. It's pretty good for you. You'll like it. Up in your ear hole.
On the GoCast Network.
Hey guys, this is Danny Trejo, and when I'm in Huntington Beach, I go to my favorite restaurant, the Second Floor. The Second Floor has my favorite food, and man, you have to see their colossal burgers. You need a damn machete just to cut them. And they were just voted the best fusion art restaurant. Tattoo art from some of the biggest names like Jack Rudy and Rick Walters. Every Thursday night, art shows featuring legends to local artists come in, and you can meet them in person. You can buy the art right off the walls, and all sales go right to the artist. After 10 p.m. Thursday through Saturday, well-known DJs spinning an eclectic mix of music, and you've got to check out their late-night menu. Go visit them on the web. Check out their great menu, upcoming art shows, and your favorite DJ. Located at 126 Main Street, downtown Huntington Beach. Second Floor. I'll see you there.
Hi, this is Gary Garver. Listen to my show every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific on the GoCast Network. It's controlled chaos. That's right, controlled chaos. Right here, 5 p.m. Pacific, every Wednesday on the GoCast Network.
Hey, these are the Farley Brothers on Farley Brothers Radio. I'm Kevin Farley.
I'm John Farley.
I want you to go and look for Paranormal Movie on Amazon.com. It's out April 9th.
Yeah, it's a hilarious movie about a parody of the paranormal movies.
It's starring Maria Menounos, Tom Sizemore, Eric Roberts, John Farley, who plays Jack Goff.
Yep. Nikki Whalen. It's an awesome movie. Go check it out on Amazon.com. April 9th, it's coming out. Type in Kevin Farley Paranormal Movie.
We're back on the GoCast Network.
We're back with Talking Marijuana. Our guest, Diane Goldstein from LEAP, Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, and Aaron Justice from Buds and Roses is going to talk a little later about the High Times Cannabis Cup coming up in Colorado. Back with Diane.
Yeah, let's talk about your article in Ladybug. The premiere issue of Ladybug magazine came out a couple weeks ago, and there's an article in there about you. It's wonderful.
What is
I
Ladybug
loved it.
magazine? I
Well,
haven't heard of it.
Ladybug Magazine is a magazine that Diane Fornbacher, who's with Normal Women's Alliance, she won one of the Pauline Sabine Awards for her work in the activist movement. And her and Angela Baca, who's also part of NWA, she's the editor, is they
NWA.
Yeah.
Come on.
Normal Woman's Alliance.
Normal Women's Alliance.
This is LA.
I'm not going there, but
Yeah, where have you been?
I know exactly where
have
he's
you
at.
been?
sorry to interrupt on that.
Do they have the same theme song?
Yeah,
they do.
You know what? As a matter of fact, in some aspects we do, but we couch it in a very nice fashion, which is what I'm doing. So. I'm writing for them, and what I'm writing is really op-ed pieces that really talks about how the war on drugs has impacted our society, the unintended consequences. And I just wrote an article that was called "Returning the Peace to Peace Officer," and then another one called "A Few Good Cops." And returning the peace to peace officer is based on the theme that not just in California but nationally, law enforcement is not called law enforcement under our statutory authority. We're not even called police officers. We are called peace officers, and we are giving policing authority. And, like anything else, we know that there are times that law enforcement should use force in order to protect other people. Right. Absolutely. But then we're supposed to revert back to our role in serving our constituents. And one of the things that is a thesis and something that I talk about all the time is how the war on drugs has changed the relationship of law enforcement between them and their communities. And I started in 1983 and I retired in 2004. I saw the ramp up. I was a child of the 70s. So I'm going to come out of the closet here. Is I smoked pot in high school. I was very honest about it, and I got hired in spite of what now people would call youthful indiscretions. I stopped. It didn't harm me. It didn't stump my IQ. I had a successful career. And but what I saw...
We've had 3 presidents that have admitted to smoking marijuana, and they've had successful careers as well. So sorry to interrupt.
But
at least 3 presidents.
At least. There's probably more. But what has happened is the war on drugs has undermined the purpose of law enforcement. And it has changed the dynamics, and we are no longer viewed as the good guys.
Right.
And that's one of my roles in LEAP. That's actually one of the big issues for law enforcement against prohibition is, we are there to almost be the conscience of the criminal justice system to say, hey, look, we did this. We have police chiefs. We have Supreme Court justices. We have 120 criminal justice agencies represented across the world. And all of us from, line patrol officers to correctional officers to Supreme Court justices and police chiefs have said, our experience showed us that what we have done has made it a lot worse. We're driving the violence, the law enforcement corruption, which at one time in the 1980s we thought could never happen in California, is rampant. And it's not an isolated incident. And law enforcement leaders and politicians will point to, we hired the wrong person. They didn't have the morals and the values, and they never deal with, it's the policy.
It's endemic.
It's endemic because it's about the money. It's not about the drugs. Rampart was because of that. The LA County Sheriff's Department had a massive scandal a few years back that started with a localized narcotics unit out of Lenox that started out just stealing money to give themselves the tools to go out and do a better job, and then it became Machiavellian personal corruption. Right. And so let's call it out. Let's say, and that's LEAP's purpose. We're a nonprofit educational that believes that our policy should be based on harm reduction strategies. We need to allow each state to regulate as they see fit. We're not here to demand what the post-prohibition regulatory system is going to be. We're here to point out why everything that we're doing hasn't done anything. And my pet peeve as a mom, we've made our children more unsafe through prohibition.
Yeah.
How do you...
Go ahead, Justin.
Well, I'd like to say as a dispensary operator and as a parent, I can see it in my own house because one of my daughters that's 7 years old, one of her biggest fears is the police raiding the home.
Sure.
And because back in June when the ban was going on and everything, I had to prepare my children for a possible raid. We have a family pet. And just the other day, my 7-year-old was scared to go downstairs, and one of her fears, probably bigger than a burglar, was the police. And I had
Yeah,
to
that's
re-explain it to
terrible,
her,
yeah.
you know, and
That's really horrible,
That's
Aaron.
really
Yeah,
horrible.
you know,
It's reality, though, yeah.
And I had something happen this last year. I had a dispensary owner from Orange County. Him and his wife came up to me and said, "Diane, can you spend time with my teenage daughter? Because we need her to understand that because they got raided, their home got raided. Here's this then 15-year-old girl who got pulled out of bed at gunpoint.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just all these things that you go back. And so that's the other purpose of LEAP, is to return the respect of the community back to law enforcement, to show people that there are, in fact, you can have good, effective, smart policing strategies through ending prohibition. What we're doing right now is the market's unregulated. You know, we have no control, and if the cops tell you they have control over the drug
Yeah.
market, they're lying because we're completely reactive. So right now, the two people, you know, we're at the end of the spectrum. Complete legalization, which is kind of like the free the weed people talk about, is chaos.
Yes.
Okay, and the prohibition of drugs like we have now is chaos. What we want is we want to take that middle ground and craft appropriate laws and regulation that support public safety,
Right.
that promote education, that if you're a suspect and you commit a crime, we have plenty of laws on the books right now to attack that behavior. So I think we can work together to do that, but what we have to do is start normalizing the movement, to talk about, you know, looking at everyone and saying, look, we're a dad, you're a mom, we got grandkids, we are America.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, we mentioned an article a couple weeks back about it was maybe down in Florida, the retirement. You know, everyone that's retiring now in their late 50s, early 60s, they grew up with marijuana. They're in an age when they don't want to be playing shuffleboard. They want to sit and smoke a little herb and enjoy the company of their friends together in a very benign way. We will get to that someday, I hope. But
I think we will. And you know, what's interesting, again, it's like the coming out of the closet is once I started speaking for law enforcement against prohibition, I was absolutely amazed how many people I knew, professionally and personally,
right,
that literally came out of the closet and said, God, I'd much rather smoke a joint than grab a glass of wine. And these were people that were doctors and lawyers and nurses and teachers and they're our neighbors and our friends.
And no one would have said that to you before you came out.
No. But that's what's
right?
necessary,
I mean, you were a
too.
police officer to them, and so they weren't going to bring that conversation.
Well, it's like people that come and ask us about things because we're providers, and so you get these phone calls that go, well, I don't know who to ask, but, you know, to ask you. So obviously they came out and talked to you about stuff like that
so
as well.
if every closet cannabis smoker came out.
Oh my God, that would be wonderful. That's why I was saying.
And I think it's going to come to that point. And you know, from a law enforcement perspective, I was talking to some people that I know, and they basically agreed with me. You know, marijuana prohibition. None of us had ever gone to a call where someone tried to fight me, beat their wife, raped their children, and pillaged the neighbors. Now, I'm not saying that people haven't driven under the influence of marijuana and caused accidents, but it's no different than alcohol. And what we need to do is give law enforcement the tools, not with zero tolerance laws, but with effective training, drug recognition training, and other things that make them better at doing their jobs. Exactly. And so every time we try to implement a zero tolerance law, all that does is it undermines our civil liberties, and it basically is lazy policing.
Lazy policing.
You're right about people coming out of the closet, though. The more people who come out of the closet, the more they stand up and say, I do it too, the easier this whole situation would become. I think there's a lot of hypocrisy up there. You know, even like Gavin Newsom when he came out on Jimmy Kimmel the other day, and he was saying, you know, I never talked about marijuana, but I do now, and everybody else should too, because it's there. You know, everyone's just ignoring it. Well, he said exactly what everyone is thinking. You know, it's like it's here, it's not going anywhere.
And as soon as you start start talking about it, you realize how easy it is to talk about it. The walls didn't come crashing down. He's not out of office.
No.
We've moved, hopefully, in this millennium into a more educated view on this subject, and hopefully we'll be getting that education out to the rest of the country. I'm still interested in how LEAP became LEAP. Like, when did police officers decide to come to the aid of marijuana advocates? I know that wasn't the intention.
You know what?
But you sure did.
No, and you know what? LEAP is an amazing organization, and I have to give the biggest kudos to the 5 founders of LEAP who are spread across the country and up in Canada. And in 2002, people had retired, and people had already been thinking. All of them, when you talk to them, say, "We knew that that this wasn't working, but we didn't know what to do." So they put together Law Enforcement Against Prohibition in 2002. Last year was our 10th anniversary. We are growing exponentially. We are having officers who are coming to us and being supportive. I had an experience in Atlanta at the Peachtree Conference. I was going around introducing myself to people. There was a man that looked obviously like a retired police officer, and I said, "This is who I am, and I retired from law enforcement." He goes, "Oh, hey, I'm here, and the reason I'm here is because my daughter and I are debating marijuana all the time, and she's out debating me, and I want to know, is she right?" And he was at our conference for 2 days and walked away, gave me his email and said, "Could you please send me your PowerPoint presentation? You have really made me think about, I need to rethink everything." So that's a tipping point. You know, when you have a retired cop who shows up at a normal conference.
No, it's phenomenal. I mean, it's one thing for advocates to talk to police organizations and try to educate them and try to, get that relationship together. But it's an entirely different thing when police officers who have been out there, who've experienced and understand where the failure is, come and explain.
And there's so many benefits because we're the bridge between the community and law enforcement. We're also the bridge to other law enforcement officers to give them the strength. I call it similar to the Vietnam War, the vets who came out against the Vietnam War.
Right.
We've been entrenched in this. There's better and more effective solutions, and we need to get out of the groupthink mentality in order to make our society better. I'm a social justice person. I don't like bullies. That's why I got in law enforcement. And what bothers me is I think law enforcement is turning into bullies right now because of the drug war. And and I'm like my mom. I just need to kind of spank them and say, "No, we can't do that to people. That's not how we treat the people that we're supposed to serve."
On a kind of a related topic, I recently saw a film called End of Watch, which was about Los Angeles policemen. And I watched it with a friend, and when we finished watching it, first of all, I had a really bad taste in my mouth. It was not I heard it was a great picture of what Los Angeles cops can do. That was how it was kind of sold to me. And I know it's a film, and, there's lots of Hollywood stuff going on in there as well. But what came across to me from that film was that the policemen in Los Angeles are just another gang. They were really literally portrayed as if no consequences come to them unless they're caught, and they were doing illegal things. It was really amazing to me.
The one thing that movie got right was about the relationship between the officers. That's about
super tight.
That's it. That's about the only thing that movie got right. And so like with all films, I think you have to take things with a grain of salt.
Correct.
But I think that the other thing that you have to view it is that's just kind of a film that shows really why the drug war has failed as well.
Failed miserably. Horrible.
And that's exactly. I mean, you look at the macro effect of what our drug policy has done. I was born in Mexico City. I have family that lives in Mexico, and our policy has devastated a country. And I was in a debate with Paul Chabot recently, and I heard him say this, and it was so appalling that what is going on in Mexico is like the Iraq surge, and that the Mexicans and the U.S. is going to win eventually. And my whole thinking is, so it's okay to have innocent civilians killed.
And it's not
that's
just Mexico. It's all of South and Central America.
No, and that's exactly it. But I mean, right now in the last 5 years, we have over 60,000 deaths that are directly attributed to what our policy is causing. And so at what point do we hold ourselves responsible as a society?
Most of the Central American and South American leaders have come out against the drug war very strongly. The Costa Rican president, you know, usually Costa Rica, everything the United States says, but she's like badass on that point.
Yeah.
You know, everybody is tired of seeing their people die, you know, for no reason. The United States government has put a worth on the head of marijuana, you know.
Just this officer that was, you know, having the debates with his daughter and then realized when confronted with the evidence that he might have to rethink the way that he has been looking at this. Politicians don't like to rethink their stand on issues like this.
No, they don't.
I mean, it really puts them at a disadvantage, and that is, I think, a problem in moving forward. Is that we can't get to the point where our lawmakers admit that we've been in a worthless war.
You know what's interesting is because this is not a Leap opinion. This is just my personal opinion.
Okay.
Is we tend to view our politicians in the wrong way. We think that they're our leaders, and they're not. They should be following us, and so we have to make them feel safe enough to come out of the prohibition closet, because the only thing our politicians care about is being reelected.
Right.
And so we have to change the perception.
We have to empower them.
And we have
with
to.
our...
And so if we started
glass half full instead of glass half empty, work toward making it correct with them.
Yeah, and I think public polling's doing it. I think what ASA does is probably one of the most effective things, which is getting in grassroots patients and dispensary owners and others right in front of the politician.
I think it's they have to know that those people support them, and they need to hear from their constituents. You know, people
absolutely.
in their hometown.
Get involved out there if you're listening to our show still. We have about 3 minutes, and I'd like to bring Aaron in and just do a little bit about what's going on in Colorado. You're going to be going out there?
Yeah, we have a booth out there. We're going to be representing Glocka and Buds and Roses in Los Angeles.
Fantastic.
We're very excited. I think they've sold over 16,000 tickets to this event.
Yeah.
That's huge.
It's the first ever. It is the Denver Medical Cannabis Cup, but it's the first ever United States Cannabis Cup also. I know they've sold tickets from all over the country, and my parents probably all over the world. My parents who are from Illinois, they're not, my dad, he might use it a little bit, but they're flying out there for the event. It's a big celebration of like freedom.
Well, it's the first year it's legal there, so they're very excited, and
it's so cool.
That's great. Well, I hope it goes off smoothly.
Yeah,
and,
I think so.
That we get a lot of good press from events like that. That'd be really great.
I want to urge everyone out there to visit a Glocka dispensary. Go to glocka.net, find a Glocka dispensary in your area. The Glocka sticker on the door is a sign of excellence in medical marijuana in Los Angeles.
Good plug, Tommy. And sign up for AmericansForSafeAccess.org.
And we'd like to direct people to the yesondla.org, yesondla.org website, where you can go and contribute to the campaign. You can learn about the differences between the measures that are out there, the different propositions, and we again urge you to go out on May 21st and vote yes for Prop D and no on Prop F. And
come see me at Pure Life.
Or if
we're on the Cienega.
Or if you're in the Valley, come see me at Buds and Roses on Ventura
if you're
Boulevard.
on Melrose, come on over and see me at California Patients Alliance. Let's put them up. Come see us all. And thanks so much for tuning in this week. And thanks to our guest, Diane. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
We'll have you back.
Thanks, Don.
Oh, that was a great show.